Our Bible word is Luke 15, verses 8 to 9. Or what woman, having 10 silver coins, if she loses one coin, does not light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she has found it, she calls her friends and neighbors together, saying, Rejoice with me, for I found the piece which I lost. So this is the parable of the lost coin. And if you look at chapter 15 as a whole, it's God rejoices at finding the lost. And the parables that Jesus gives here, there's actually 3 parables in chapter 15 where it's about God or rejoicing, or heaven rejoices when the sinner repents and returns back to God. Because these 3 parables of Jesus, it's the parable of the lost sheep, parable of the lost coin, and also the parable of the lost son, or you can say the prodigal son. It covers the same theme. And it's a response to what's said in verses 2 of the chapter. Because there the Pharisees and scribes complained, saying, This man receives sinners and eats with them. So, if you were a self-respecting person in the first century, especially a law-observant person, you won't eat with tax collectors and sinners because they are ritually impure. Because table fellowship had very important significance, because table fellowship, who you ate with, it told other people, this is my level. This is the people I can associate with. That's the way it would have been understood in the first century. And that's now the complaint of the Pharisees and the scribes. Already if we go back earlier to chapter 7, if we go to verses 29 to 30, it says there, and when all the people heard him, that's not John the Baptist, even the tax collectors justified God, having been baptized with the baptism of John. So the tax collectors, in other words, also sinners, they came to John to be baptized because they repented. But what of the Pharisees and the other law-observant kind? It says, but the Pharisees and the lawyers rejected the will of God for themselves, not having been baptized by him. So there were sinners and tax collectors. They listened to John, they were baptized. They listened to Jesus, and now they experienced stable fellowship with Jesus. But the Pharisees and the lawyers, also the scribes, those who know the law, they're the experts in the law, and they observe strict purity standards. They did not listen to John the Baptist. They rejected God's purposes. They were not baptized. And now they also reject Jesus, and they complain about Jesus. He eats with tax collectors and sinners. Of course, now they put themselves above Jesus. And now Jesus responds to these law experts. He says, well, God rejoices when sinners repent. Are you also going to rejoice? Will you rejoice if sinners repent and come back to God? Or are you going to continue behaving this way? But Jesus explains to them, this is how God behaves in a way. What Jesus enacts by having table fellowship with tax collectors and sinners is the joy that is experienced in heaven by God and the angels because of these sinners coming back. So if you look at the first 2 parables, because they share a similar kind of story, a similar kind of structure, because God celebrates the recovery of the lost. So these first two parables, they have parallel structures because there's the identification of the main character, be that the shepherd or the woman. It describes the loss and the search. In other words, the search for the lost sheep or the coin, and also the recovery of what was lost. Then also there's this motif of rejoicing with friends and neighbors, which symbolizes God's, or the rejoicing in heaven when sinners repent and come back to God. So we have the story of the lost sheep, where one gets lost out of the 100 and the shepherd goes and finds it and he rejoices. Now we have a parallel story that's similar to it, but now it's about this peasant woman. Typical peasant woman in a village, a one-roomed house, there's no window. She loses the coin. It's the Greek is drachma, which is similar to a denarius. It's about a day's labor, pay for a day's work. So if you're a peasant woman, it's a lot of money. So even if you just lose one coin out of 10, it's grave consequences. So it's a serious issue. So Jesus, if you read our Bible word again, let's see what she does, all the effort that she makes to look for this coin. Or what woman, having 10 silver coins, if she loses one coin, does not light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she has found it, she calls her friends and neighbors together, saying, "Rejoice with me, for I found the piece which I lost." So, for her, it's a serious consequence. It's important to find this lost coin. So, this is also what Jesus is doing. He's the one that goes search for the lost. Because remember also, this part of Luke is also explained by scholars as the gospel for the outcast. Because a very important theme for Luke is that outsiders are experiencing salvation. If you read the gospel, Jesus goes to the poor, the tax collectors, the sinners, the Samaritans, all the social outcasts from the point of view of the Pharisees and the scribes and the very pious, etc. Jesus goes out to them and he searches them out. Go read chapter 14 of Luke, because there Jesus gives us parables. Invite the poor, the blind, the lame, etc. Bring them. Also go read chapter 16. It has similar themes, reaching out to those on the outcasts of society, those who are on the margins. It's Jesus brings this message, and now outsiders are experiencing salvation. And this is also true for our present chapter with these parables. Sinners, tax collectors, whatever, God actually goes and searches for them. And when they come back to the fold, there's this great rejoicing in heaven. And that is why Jesus is eating with tax collectors and sinners, because it symbolizes the joy that's experienced in heaven by these sinners repenting and coming back to God.